So you've got two ETFs or two stocks, and you can't decide which one is the best. In other words, which one has the strongest chart. Well, today we're going to look at that, and we're going to use XBI and IBB, two biotech ETFs, but one clearly stands head and shoulders above the other. And no, I'm not going to use a head and shoulders pattern. Hey, this is Arthur Hill, Chief Technical Strategist at TrendInvestorPro.com. You are tuned in to Next Level Charting. This is for Thursday, November 12th. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's hit the charts. So I'm here on ETFdatabase.com, ETFDB.com, and I go here when I want to know something about an ETF, the holdings that are in it in particular, or the liquidity, or maybe the fees, expense ratios, and such. And here on this site, we can see there are the top 15 holdings, and then there are the top 10 holdings. And they're familiar names: Amgen, Gilead, Regeneron, Vertex, Illumina, Biogen, Moderna, Alexion, Incyte. Also, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the concentration of holdings there. So there we can see that we have the top 10 stocks in this ETF account for 47% basically of the ETF. So this is driven by those large caps. And that means if we're interested in this ETF, it would probably be best if we had an idea of how these individual names were performing, these top 10 names that are driving the ETF. So I put IBB and the top 10 names in a perf chart. This was updated as of Tuesday's close, but it gives you an idea of the 3-month performance for IBB and the top 10 stocks. So IBB's up 2%. And look at that. 4 of the 10 are up and 6 of the 10 are down. The majority are down, and all but one of these stocks is down more than 10%. Regeneron's down 8%. So pretty much double-digit declines in those laggards. And this would tell you that at best, this ETF is split because, less than half are actually up over the last 3 months and more than half are down. So that's not looking very good. And if we right-click and we go out 6 months, we can see performance is still mixed. And that's really not what we want to see in an ETF, that kind of mixed performance. And we go year to date, and there we can see Moderna, of course, with the vaccine news there, up 288%. So it's a big driver in the ETF. So here we are on ETF database again, and we've got the S&P Biotech SPDR. And if we look at the holdings right away, we can see a big difference. We look at the top 15 holdings, we can see the biggest holding accounts for just 1.73%. It's much more equally weighted across the components within this ETF. And separately, it's got some funny symbols working here. Rare is one of them, and Fate is another one, Fate Therapeutics. So these are going to be some more of the Wild West biotech stocks out there, the smaller ones, the ones that are going to be either home runs or strikeouts. Now, if we scroll a little bit further down and we look at the concentration analysis here, we can see that the top 10 stocks account for just 14% of the ETF, and there are 140 stocks. So this is telling you if you want a broad basket of biotechs, and you're not interested in the large caps, but you want everything in there, because the large caps are going to be in there as well. They just don't count as much. They're just not weighted as much. And this is going to be a better cross-section of the biotech industry group as a whole. So I went ahead and I put the top 10 components of XBI in a perf chart, and wow, you can see the difference. And you can see that this is, either a home run or a strikeout. There are a lot of home runs right now working in this ETF. But we can see that XBI is up 7%. When we look at the top 10 stocks, 9 of the 10 are up double digits, In fact, 9 of the 10 are up 30% or more, and we can see that 2 are up 70% and 1 is up 61%. So there are some huge gainers in this. Now, I'm sure if you put all 140 in a perf chart, you can't put that many in a perf chart, but we're going to also have some really big losers in this ETF. But right now you can see that the performance for the top 10 looks much better than IBB. But again, as I said, it really doesn't matter that much for XBI because it is such a broad, evenly distributed ETF. So just a little commercial break for trendinvestorpro.com, what we're covering over this past week. I covered the ESPO and the HERO, the video, gaming, and esports ETFs. And that's a free article with a video if you want to check it out. We have our timing models on Friday, and then the big ETF report is on Thursdays. And I have over a dozen charts in this report, and I group the charts by chart strength. In other words, the ones hitting new highs. And so we were on healthcare. We've been on this one because it's been in a rising channel for several months. Biotechs are also leading, but XBI is stronger than IBB as we're seeing today. And there was the breakout in the new high in XBI last week. This is last week's report. Also clean energy and many, many more, including the semiconductor ETF, one of the few tech-related ETFs that hit a new high this week when it followed through on that little breakout there. And there's also a premium page with tons of articles and videos that are less time sensitive, including a number of strategy articles and videos that can keep you busy for a long time. So check out trendinvestorpro.com for more. So there are over 2,000 ETFs out there. It's crazy the number of ETFs. You know, the technology, there's probably 10 tech sector ETFs. And even within biotech, there are more than 2 ETFs. But XBI and IBB are the 2 big ones. And I think when you're looking at biotech or any other group of ETFs, you kind of need to separate out which ones are more suited for your trading, which ones are outperforming. And, you know, as we said with IBB and XBI, the makeup's completely different. IBB, large caps, XBI is a much broader ETF. And I think we should also compare performance to try and make a decision. And if we look at IBB and XBI together, there you can see there's the high from July in IBB. It didn't exceed it in October, and it has a lower high in November. Now, it's still a bullish pattern working. It's still a big consolidation within an uptrend. So it's not like I'm bearish on this chart. But if you look at XBI, it's clearly stronger. There is that July high, and you can see we had a new high in October, and we had a new high here in November. So it is clearly stronger. It held higher above the rising 200-day than IBB did. And then we can kind of quantify that by using a ratio chart. This is the XBI IBB ratio. And you can see it took off here in March, April, May, and it's been rising ever since. And look at that. It was hitting new highs in August, twice in September, in October, and November. And when that ratio rises, that tells you that XBI is outperforming IBB. Now, when that ratio falls, that means XBI is underperforming IBB as it did there in March. But right now, XBI is clearly outperforming. It has the stronger price chart, and it is the more preferred ETF of the 2. Now, relationships do change. And as I said, IBB is not necessarily bearish just because it's underperforming. It's still a bullish configuration in the fact that it's a consolidation above the 200-day. So here are the price charts in more detail. I've got the Stoch 125-day full stochastic with a 5-day smoothing there, and it moved above 60 in April and stays bullish there. That's a trend following indicator. And you can see XBI continues to work its way higher. Now we can get into the short term, but once we start getting short term, we do increase the idea that there could be some noise, but we had a little falling channel there and a breakout. We had another one here, a little channel wedge and a breakout. And now perhaps we have a little pennant forming after this surge and on the verge of a breakout. But anything above, say, 105 could be noise. As long as it holds 105, it's clearly in an uptrend. And here is IBB, and you can see there's that lower high, and we have a higher low, slightly higher low. So it's basically a big surge and a big triangle type consolidation. And we got that surge off support. And if you got out a 30-minute chart, you would see a little wedge taking shape. So a breakout there would argue for a bigger triangle breakout. But you can see the full stochastic dip below 40. And that was a whipsaw because that's a trend following bearish signal, but we didn't break support and we're back above 60. So IBB is still looking bullish. So first, just a word of caution. If you're attempting to play individual biotech stocks, there is a whole lot of risk always out there. Here's Biogen surging above 350 one day, and then 2 days later, closing below 240. So this is the kind of volatility you can expect with individual biotechs. Now, I mentioned that I have 2 stocks that stand out, but I'm going to show 3 because this first one comes with a huge asterisk because they are scheduled any day now to report the results of their COVID vaccine trials. And this is, of course, Moderna. And you can see here, had a nice falling wedge, back to support, and then the breakout. And that was the trigger there for Moderna. We had another little pullback here and a breakout. But now you're probably going to either go to 100 after the news or 60 after the news. And, maybe if it gets into that 60 area, that'd be a buying opportunity because, this vaccine stuff is a longer term issue. There are going to be ups and downs, trial and error, if you will. So a whole lot of risk associated with Moderna. Now, scrolling down here, the other one is Alexion, and this is by far the strongest of the big stocks in IBB. And that is because we have a 52-week high in October and in November. So you have this pullback here, a nice wedge, and then breaking out in August. And choppiness, it comes with biotechs. And we had a nice pullback here. Playable pullbacks is what I'm after. And then a surge and a breakout. So clearly one of the strongest. And you can see the full stochastic indicator has been bullish since the early part or middle part of April. And here is Regeneron, and look at this big move, a huge move from 340 all the way to 660. And then this is like 2 steps forward, and this looks like 1 step backward. And it looks like a 1 step backward with a falling wedge. Now, yeah, the full stochastic did go below 40, which is a bearish signal, but this looks like a correction that is retraced half, coming back to the rising 200-day. And if we get a breakout here, that's going to be bullish for Regeneron. So it looks like XBI has a much stronger chart than IBB. However, when I was looking through the stocks in IBB, I saw 3 that stood out: Moderna, Alexion, and Regeneron. So that concludes this video. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you'd like to know more about my services, check out trendinvestorpro.com. Have a great day.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.